The First Amendment is one of the most fundamental parts of the U.S. Constitution because it protects our core freedoms that are essential to a functioning constitutional republic with a representative democracy. The First Amendment gives us 5 rights: freedom of religion, freedom of speech, freedom of the press, freedom of assembly, and freedom to petition the government. These rights form the foundation of American democracy, allowing open debate, protecting individual liberties, and preventing government overreach. Without the First Amendment, the government could control information, silence opposition, and restrict personal beliefs, which would fundamentally change the nature of American society. Let's dive more into what each one of these 5 rights given under the First Amendment means and how they protect us. For this video, I will refer to the United States as a democracy because saying constitutional republic with a representative democracy is a lot to say over and over. First up, freedom of religion. Freedom of religion is one of the most fundamental rights protected by the First Amendment in the U.S. Constitution. Freedom of religion ensures that individuals can practice their faith. They could choose not to practice a faith if they don't want to, without government interference. This right is crucial for maintaining a diverse and tolerant society, preventing religious persecution, and upholding the separation of church and state. Let's talk more about a few of those aspects of freedom of religion. Freedom of religion protects from religious persecution. Throughout history, governments have imposed religious beliefs on their citizens, leading to oppression, discrimination, and even violence at times. Many of the early American colonists, such as the Puritans and the Quakers, came to the New World to escape religious persecution in Europe. By protecting religious freedom, the First Amendment prevents the government from favoring one religion over another or pushing individuals to specific beliefs. Freedom of religion also talks about the separation of church and state. The Constitution ensures that the government does not establish a national religion or interfere in religious matters. This separation both protects religion and government by preventing religious institutions from exerting too much control over politics, while also ensuring that the government policies are not based in religious doctrine. This principle allows for religious diversity, ensuring that all faiths, or no faiths at all, are treated equally under the law. Freedom of religion also prevents government control over personal beliefs. In countries where freedom of religion is not protected, governments often use religion as a tool to control their citizens. Such as in 16th and 17th century Europe, European governments imposed religious conformity laws that would punish people in the dissent. More recently, some authoritarian regimes have suppressed religious groups that might challenge the state authority. The First Amendment ensures that Americans are free to believe or not to believe without fear of government punishment. Freedom of religion is essential because it protects individual rights, it prevents government overreach, and it strengthens our democracy. It ensures that people can worship or not worship, whatever way they choose, without fear of persecution. By preventing the government from imposing or restricting religious beliefs, the First Amendment upholds one of the most fundamental principles of a free and open society. Now let's talk about freedom of speech. Freedom of speech is one of the most essential rights protected by the First Amendment because it allows individuals to express their thoughts, their ideas, and their opinions without government interference. This right is fundamental in a democratic society because it ensures open debate, it protects dissent, and it allows progress through the idea of through exchanging ideas. However, the First Amendment is not absolute because speech that incites violence, threatens national security, or spreads false information with harmful intent, such as libel and slander, are limited. What are some things that free speech does? So free speech is essential for democracy. A functioning democracy depends on the free exchange of different ideas. Citizens must be able to speak freely about government policies, to criticize leaders, and to advocate for change without the fear of government prosecution. Without free speech, the government could suppress dissenters, they could control public opinion, and they could silence the opposition, leading to authoritarianism. Nations that restrict speech often become oppressive, which was seen in Nazi Germany or in the Soviet Union. When they restrict free speech, they take the speech and they say what can and cannot be said. Freedom of speech protects against government tyranny. Freedom of speech is a safeguard against government overreach. When people can openly criticize those in power, leaders are held more accountable for their actions. Governments that limit free speech often do so to silence criticism and to maintain control. The First Amendment ensures that Americans can challenge laws, they can challenge policies, and they can challenge officials without fear of punishment. Freedom of speech also encourages open debate and progress. Throughout history, free speech has played a crucial role in societal progress. Controversial ideas such as ending slavery, expanding civil rights, granting women the right to vote were once unpopular opinions that were talked about through open discussion. If free speech was restricted, those movements might never have succeeded because those in power would have been able to silence those who were opposing them. By allowing different viewpoints to be heard, that lets society evolve and improve over time. Free speech protects minority opinions. In many societies, the majority can easily overpower dissenting opinions, leading to discrimination and oppression. Freedom of speech, though, ensures that all voices, no matter how unpopular, have the right to be heard, whether you agree with them or not. With freedom of speech comes balancing free speech and responsibility. Speech that incites violence, promotes hate crimes, or spreads false information with harmful intent is limited. The challenge with any society that has free speech is balancing freedom of expression with protecting others from harm. However, if you restrict speech too broadly, that can lead to censorship and it can suppress really important discussions that need to be had. Freedom of speech is a foundation of democracy, protecting individuals from government oppression, promoting open debate, and allowing for societal progress. It ensures that all people, regardless of backgrounds or beliefs, are able to express themselves freely without fear of punishment. By upholding this right, the First Amendment empowers individuals, it fosters innovation, and it safeguards against tyranny. Now let's talk about freedom of the press. Freedom of the press is one of the most essential rights in the First Amendment because it ensures that journalists and media organizations can report the truth without government interference. Freedom of the press allows for transparency, it holds those in power accountable for their actions, and it keeps the public informed. Without freedom of the press, the government could control information, they could suppress dissent, and they could manipulate public opinion. When it comes to freedom of the press, holding government accountable is probably one of its most important parts. The free press kind of acts as a watchdog, or they're supposed to, over the government by exposing corruption, by exposing abuse of power, and by exposing unethical practices. Investigative journalism has played a crucial role in American history by uncovering scandals such as Watergate and the Pentagon Papers. We might not have ever known about those if it wasn't for these journalists looking into things. Without the free press, the government could operate secretly, making it easier for leaders to abuse their power because there would be no consequences because nobody's ever going to find out. Freedom of press also keeps citizens informed. For a democracy to function, citizens must be able to access accurate and unbiased information. Wall break. Freedom of the press is supposed to be unbiased, but we know it's not. We know there are news organizations that lean left. We know there are news organizations that lean right. And they are always going to stay on their side and they're going to keep their opinions and it's not going to be unbiased. But there are places in the middle that try to be as unbiased as possible, and those are really what we need to look at. Is it okay to listen to something from the right? Is it okay to listen to something from the left? Yes, but you need to be listening to more than just one opinion. End of the wall break. The freedom of press provides the public with facts about government policies, economic issues, social movements, and global affairs. Freedom of the press is there to prevent censorship and propaganda. Countries where freedom of the press is restricted, the government often controls the media, spreading propaganda, spreading what they want to be seen and what they want to be heard, and suppressing dissenting voices. An example of this could be North Korea. Their government controls all the news, allowing only positive coverage of their leaders. You can't talk bad about their leaders at all in North Korea. A free press ensures that multiple perspectives are available, preventing the government from monopolizing information. Freedom of the press is also there to support a competitive and a transparent economy. The free press plays a role in economic fairness by reporting on different business practices, by exposing corruption, and by ensuring transparency through financial dealings. Investigation journalism, which is part of freedom of the press, has uncovered fraud, has uncovered insider trading, and has uncovered unethical labor practices leading to reforms that not only protect consumers, but also protect workers. There are some challenges when it comes to freedom of the press, though. In some countries, reporters are arrested, attacked, or even killed for investigating or talking about sensitive topics or topics that the government doesn't want you to know about. And like I discussed in my wall break, corporate influence and media bias is a problem in freedom of the press. Large media companies may have a political or financial interest in shaping their reporting, so they're going to go to one side or another, making their transparency, making what they say possibly tainted. And that's really important for us as citizens, is to see through their bias. Freedom of the press, though, is a cornerstone for democracy, ensuring that the government remains accountable, the citizens remain informed, and diverse viewpoints are heard. Without freedom of the press, corruption grows and individuals lose their ability to make informed decisions. Moving on to freedom of assembly. Freedom of assembly is a fundamental right protected by the First Amendment, which allows people to gather peacefully, to express their views, to advocate for change, and to protest government actions, protest laws, to do things like that. Freedom of assembly protects the right to protest. Protests have been a powerful tool for social and political changes over the years. Many of the significant movements in America have happened because of freedom of assembly. The civil rights movement, women's suffrage, the labor rights movement, which I'm teaching about the labor rights movement right now in class, with the coal wars and coal miners trying to unionize, trying to get better rights and working conditions. Without the ability to assemble, many of these movements may have never succeeded. Freedom of assembly also holds government accountable. Freedom of assembly allows citizens to challenge government policies, to demand transparency, and to advocate for new laws. Peaceful protest puts pressure on leaders to respond to public concerns. This ensures that elected officials are serving the interest of the people rather than their own interest or corporate interests. Freedom of assembly encourages civil engagement. Freedom of assembly encourages people to become more involved in their community by joining groups, by organizing events, and by discussing societal issues. Freedom of assembly strengthens society by fostering dialogue and by allowing you to collaborate with others who may have the same opinion as you and that may have a differing opinion as you. Without freedom to assemble, people would struggle to mobilize support for important causes. Freedom of assembly helps prevent government suppression. In authoritarian regimes, government often bans public gatherings to suppress opposition and to maintain control. You've seen this many times over the years, such as in China, in Tiananmen Square in 1989. In Russia, anti-government rallies are frequently banned and protesters are arrested. And in North Korea, public gatherings to criticize the government are unheard of because of what strict repercussions happen if you try to do so. By guaranteeing freedom of assembly, the U.S. prevents such authoritarianism from happening because it ensures that opinions are able to be expressed freely. Freedom of assembly also promotes nonviolent conflict resolution. When people have the right to assemble, they can express their grievances through peaceful means without resorting to violence. Suppressing this right could lead to frustration, could lead to civil unrest, and even rebellion, which would lead to violence. Allowing peaceful demonstrations to happen provides an outlet for people to encourage constructive dialogue rather than destructive conflict. Freedom of assembly empowers citizens to participate in civic life, to organize protests, and to have collective expression of concerns. Without this right, individuals would have little power to demand change, which makes freedom of assembly a cornerstone to both American democracy and to human rights around the world. And the last part of the First Amendment is the right to petition the government. Freedom of petition is a fundamental right protected by the First Amendment, and this allows individuals to express concerns, to request policy changes, and to challenge government actions without the fear of punishment. This right is essential because it enables citizens to directly engage with their government, which helps them maybe influence policy decisions, and it holds their leaders accountable. Freedom of petition ensures direct communication with the government. Freedom of petition gives individuals and groups the ability to communicate their grievances and their demands directly to lawmakers and government officials. It ensures that the voices of the people are heard even if they don't have any political power or wealth. This right allows citizens to write letters to elected officials, to submit petitions to change laws, to request government investigations into issues, and to challenge unfair policies. Without this right, the government could just ignore public concerns without any form of accountability. The right to petition strengthens a democracy. A democracy is based on the principle that the government should serve the people. The right to petition ensures that individuals can influence the government without needing to solely rely on elections. Petitions allow for people to push for changes between political cycles, keeping the government moving and responsive to public needs. Freedom of petition is one way to prevent government overreach. If people weren't able to petition the government, leaders could pass laws and policies without the public input, without the public being able to express their opinion. Freedom of petition ensures that government officials are held and remain accountable to the people they serve. Freedom of petition is vital to American democracy because it allows individuals to communicate directly with the government. They're able to advocate for change, and they're able to hold their leaders accountable. Without this right, individuals would have fewer ways to challenge injustices or to influence the laws that govern them. Along with protecting those 5 rights, the First Amendment is a safeguard against tyranny. Tyranny thrives when the government controls speech, when they limit access to information, when they suppress religious freedoms, when they ban protest, and when they ignore public concern. The First Amendment directly opposes all of these tactics, making it the most important safeguard against authoritarianism. By protecting the fundamental freedoms of speech, religion, press, assembly, and petition, the First Amendment ensures that individuals can challenge authority, they can hold leaders accountable, and they can engage in the democratic process. The First Amendment is the foundation of liberty, and without it, all other rights would and could be at risk. The First Amendment isn't just words on a piece of paper. It is the foundation of our freedom. It protects the right to speak our minds, to challenge authority, to practice our beliefs, to gather for change, and to demand accountability from our leaders. Without it, democracy crumbles and tyranny takes its place. Throughout history, these rights have shaped our nation, fueling movements that have made America a place where every voice matters. But these rights will only stay strong if we defend them. So whether you're speaking out, standing up, or just staying informed, remember, your freedoms are worth protecting.